What's going on, Kynfoks? I'm glad that you can join me today, and welcome to the very first episode of the We Are Kynfoks web series. What is the We Are Kynfoks web series? Well, it's a web series where you're going to follow me around and chronicle my day in the life dealing with PTSD and how I use my creativity as an outlet to release some of the stress and frustration that builds up. Now, along with that, we'll be visiting certain places. We'll be talking to some professionals as well as some of my friends and colleagues who also deal with mental health personally, or they're on the other side of helping people deal with mental health issues. I decided to do a web series because I thought it'd be a better way to reach more people. And our goal here is to help anyone dealing with mental health find new and creative ways to release. Because sometimes all we need is a release. So, on today's episode, I'll be talking about the new normal and giving some quick tips on mental health. For my folks that were in the military, all of my veterans, all my soldiers, airmen, Marines that are still serving, if you've deployed, you've come home, and you've heard the term new normal. Now, that term new normal is different in business as it is for the military folks, especially when dealing with mental health. So, new normal. From how it was explained to us in the military, the new normal is you have to come home and establish your new way of life, a new normal standard of living. Because for us, when we were deployed, like for instance, when I was deployed to Afghanistan for a year, my family, my wife and my kids, they set up a new routine that didn't involve me because I wasn't able to be there physically. So when I come home, I can't expect them to go back and start doing things the way it was done before I left. I have to find a way to come home, watch what's going on, and then successfully assimilate myself into their new normal. Because if I don't, and I come back and I throw a monkey wrench into the whole system, that's when frustration starts to kick in. The kids are now unnerved. Your wife or your spouse is now on edge because everybody's trying to fit you, basically a square peg into a round hole. So it's easier to try to come home and just take a step back. I know it's hard to take that breath sometimes because when you're caught up in the moment, the emotions going, your adrenaline is running, and your synapses are just firing off. But you have to take that breath and find that new normal. Now, for all my people who aren't military, I know this might sound crazy, but the same thing happens for you. Say you are a person that travels a lot due to work or due to a sport, due to whatever you have going on. When you leave for 30 days, your family has to find a new normal. They have to find a new schedule, a new way of doing things. If you were the one helping take the kids to school, when you're gone for 30 days, that's all your spouse, your significant other. So when you come back, you can't just hop back in, all right, I got it. No, you have to find a way to slowly pull yourself back into it. Because if you don't, you can throw a monkey wrench in the whole situation. And now you have a bigger headache because now you're trying to figure out how to get everybody back on schedule. But whatever mental health issue that's on top of it is just compounding it. So now emotionally, you're a mess. And physically, you're still trying to run around and figure out how to put yourself in the right place at the right time. So finding a new normal is imperative. There's different ways to do it. You can sit down and have counseling with your wife or your husband or your significant other. Just sit down and hold a conversation. Y'all sit down at the table when you come back, 10, 15 minutes, just explain what's going on, see what ways that you can help, and slowly start to work your way back into it. One constant thing is going to be communication, whether you're communicating with your significant other, whether you're going to therapy, whether you're going to group therapy. You need to be communicating how you feel, what you're going through. That way others around you can start to understand where you're coming from, and you guys can draw up a plan. Now, mental health is a growing issue. It's an amazing time in the mental health community right now because if you look at the news, whether it's on Yahoo, ESPN, or television, entertainers, athletes, they're coming out and they're now expressing that mental health is a real thing. They're telling you about their struggles with anxiety and depression. And before, it's a lot of people have been struggling. If everybody remembers Robin Williams, he's one of the funniest men on the planet. But he was hurting on the inside and no one knew. But now more people are stepping to the forefront who we look up to and we want our kids to strive to be like, letting them know, listen, mental health is serious and we have to start addressing it. That's the purpose of the Kynfoks Mental Wellness Foundation here in Sanford, Florida. We want to help our local veterans. We want to help our local private citizen that just needs an outlet. And we're building things towards that. I just feel like it's time for us to step up as a people, as a unit, as a group, to help others. Like, that's the biggest thing. We as people, we have to start helping one another, because everybody's struggling with something, and you'll never know if you don't stick that hand out there and say, hey bro, we're not alone. I'm here for you. You can change somebody's life with a simple compliment. Just walk up and ask them how they doing, tell them that they're special, and give them a little morning inspiration. And that's all it takes. But I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. I appreciate you for tuning in. I want you guys to remember, when you're coming back into a situation that you've been in, you have to find that new normal. Now, before I leave you, I want you to know that you need to go out and check on your friends. Check on your strong friend, check on your weak friend, and most importantly, check on yourself. And before I leave, know that we are not alone. We are kinfolks, and we are in this together. Love.